can hear me everybody well? We have a mic, but I don't think we need it. Okay, cool. Yeah, welcome to the first session. No, everybody, I hope everybody had coffee, everybody's awake and feels ready to hear actually a very personal story. A personal story about Amazy, a very personal story about myself, how do we get from 1 to 7 companies? So it's a story of one single company that started to now today 7 companies all over the world. And as mentioned, it's a very personal story. And I will tell you a bit about the history, how all of that happened, and also what did we learn out of all these things that we are doing today. So a little bit about me. I kind of have 3 jobs. I'm the CTO of the whole group. I'm the CTO of Amazy.io and also the CEO of Amazy Labs Austin. And what you see behind is my flights of 1 year. So yeah, people ask me always, where do you live? And I say C2A because yeah, I'm spending a lot of time on planes. I'm not as bad as Dries, luckily I would say. But yeah, so I'm spending a lot of time traveling around because our companies are in a lot of different countries. So the whole thing started in 2007. In 2007, 2 founders had the idea to start Amazy.com. And they found an angel investor and they decided to use Drupal 5 at the time. The 2 investors or the 2 founders are not technical at all. So they found Drupal and they decided, okay, hey, that looks like a cool thing. Unfortunately, in 2009, growth wasn't as expected. And the company actually was very close to be cancelled or to be terminated. So it was a really hard time because we realized that all the euphorism that you have at the beginning is not really happening. So interestingly, during all that time, some companies came to us and said, hey, can we have a white label of that Amazy.com? Can we have that just with another design? And at the beginning we said no, because that was not our business model. We wanted to focus on that single platform. But, well, if you have no money anymore, you either can shut down your company or you can take the money. So we did. So we started white labeling Amazy.com. We did in total 3 of them. And technically, well, we basically used all the Amazy.com modules in the Drupal core, and we just slapped another theme on top of that. And we believed, okay, now this is going to be what we're going to do. We're going to sell white labels, and yeah, no, that didn't work as well. The problem was, more and more clients asked us to build other different sites. And in the meantime, Drupal 6 came out, and so we built new sites from 6. But the core that we initially built was 5, so we had 2 code bases to maintain and all these things, and it wasn't a lot of fun. So we realized we need another name as well, because people were confused when we built new websites. They went to Amazy.com and they thought, no, I want a website and not a project, which was Amazy.com was about. So people were very confused about us having like building a platform but also building websites. So in 2010, we decided to add labs behind the Amazy. That was basically just to say, okay, we have another name, because then people knew actually what is Amazy Labs and what is Amazy.com. At that time, we didn't call it Zurich yet, because that was the single only company that existed. So the idea of Amazy Labs was to have a branding differentiation of Amazy.com. And we had many clients with a lot of different learnings. None of us had any agency experience. So we had projects which went 5 times over budget. We had projects that were 3 times under budget. We went through the whole learning experience of just realizing how do you run an agency, how do you run projects. But we always focused on Drupal, because at the end, that's what we knew already. We knew Drupal 5, we knew Drupal 6, so we just built Drupal sites. And at that time, interestingly, nobody really knew what Drupal is, at least for us in Switzerland. And so that's what we just did. So what is Amazy Labs Zurich today? Fast forward a couple of years. Today we are 27 employees in Zurich and actually also remote all over the world. we're servicing mostly Swiss clients. In Switzerland, we have quite a high hourly rate, so we can only sell that to the Swiss clients, which is a bit sad, but so far it's going well. And we're focusing now, of course, we're doing 888, and we're also starting to do more decoupled, we're doing React and things like that. So one of the things that happened while we were building these websites, still with 666 and 777 at the very beginning, clients asked us always like, how many visitors does my website actually has? Or how many links did that Facebook post that I posted generate to my website? So people were wondering what's really happening of the website. In the beginning we said like, well, I mean, we don't know. Like, we're building the website, we're not doing the analytics stuff. But more and more clients asked us for that. And so we said, maybe there is another opportunity. So we had the idea of Amazing Metrics in 2013. So we had one employee that he used to be a developer at Amazing Labs, but he knew a bit of Google Analytics and stuff like that. And he just generated some reports for our clients, and they all freaked out. They all loved it. They loved to see like how their blog posts brought traffic in, and like we created beautiful graphs and all that stuff. And they loved it. And so we said, okay, that is maybe an opportunity to have a second service beside of Amazing Labs. So we started that, mostly because of the need of Amazing Labs clients. They asked for it. And they were not doing only Drupal, because at the end, Google Analytics, Piwik, and Adobe Analytics, you can use on any site. It's not specific to Drupal. And it's also a different business model. These reports, they're mostly like weekly or monthly things that you do again and again and again, and you maybe sell them for 1 or 2 years. Whereas an agency, you sell something short, you go in, you build a site, you hand it over and do maybe some maintenance. But the business model is different, the sales is different, the marketing is different. And we also wanted to protect Amazing Labs. If we wouldn't have created its own company and the branding, we had the problem again with the branding, people were confused, things like that. So we started an actual own legal entity. And that one was privately financed by the owners of Amazing Labs Zurich. So we came together and said, okay, we want to start that company. And we founded it, and we actually found a CEO from the first day. So we knew that clients are interested, and we searched for a CEO that wants to do that, and we gave her that employee that was the developer and told her, go and run. You get our name, you get our branding, you get one employee, and now you can go. And that's what she did. So today, Amazing Metrics has 7 employees in Zurich and in Cape Town together, and they're servicing mostly Swiss clients with analytics, SEO, SEM, marketing optimization. So we extended the services a bit more. Basically, it's everything that happens after you build and publish your website, and they can tell you what's happening on there, stuff like that. So we already have 2 companies. In 2014, another interesting thing happened. Amazing Labs itself grew to roughly 18 employees, whereas 2 of them were remotely from San Antonio, Texas in the US. The reason was that we couldn't get a visa for them to actually live in Switzerland. It's very hard to get people moving. If like within Europe it's very easy, but any other countries it's quite hard. And as a small company, we didn't have the capabilities of like legal fees to hire lawyers that do all of that. So they were just working remotely for us. And the interesting part was with 18 employees, we started to feel a shift of culture. One of the things that we did from the beginning, we ate always lunch together at the table. So everybody went somewhere, got some lunch, brought it back to the office, and we ate together at one big table. And the interesting part was first, the table was too small. With 18 people, the table was full. So we could have decided, okay, either we buy another table, or if you think in an amazing way, we start another company. So that's what we did. So what we did is said, okay, let's look at all the different cities there are in the world that we think would be cool. Which of the cities should we go? With ignoring the fact that we had somebody in Texas. And so we analyzed more than 35 different cities all over the world. And we saw Austin, which is an hour north of San Antonio. We thought, okay, that's actually a cool place to go. It was right at the beginning where Austin, I mean, right now it's one of the most growing cities in the US. At that point, it just started a bit. So we told the two employees, hey, if you want to move from San Antonio to Austin, we're going to open an office there. They decided yes, and so we did. So in 2014, we started Amazing Labs Austin. It was again privately financed by the owners of Amazing Labs Zurich. Again, we wanted to create its own legal entity because we're actually in another country. You almost have to, because laws in the US are just so much different. If you want to have local employees, it's much easier to have a local company. And again, we searched for a CEO for the first day, and we found somebody, and we handed her the branding of Amazing Labs. We handed her the 2 employees of Amazing Labs. We gave her the structure and said, okay, now go and run. Build up Amazing Labs Austin. The very interesting stuff that honestly nobody thought about is it was very, very hard to find clients in the US. Not that they don't exist. In terms of Drupal, they're actually much further. Many more companies in the US have already decided we are only doing Drupal. The problem was, nobody wanted to be the first. Nobody wanted to be the first. They knew, okay, you have Amazing Labs, and yes, you have a good track record, and you had some good clients in Europe, but show me your US clients. And nobody, really big company, wanted to do that. So what we had to do is really go step by step. So we had a $5,000 project. From that $5,000, we had 20,000. With that 20,000, we were able to talk to a 50,000, and now we are at the size that we want, which is roughly like 200,000 plus projects. But that was very, very hard, and that was nothing. We just realized how the culture difference exists. Nobody wanted to be the first. Even though we had a local company, it was legally registered, we had an office, so that was really weird. Another thing that happened, unfortunately, the ideas of Amazing Zurich, the culture, didn't really fit with the Amazing Labs Austin CEO. The idea from the beginning was that we used the same tools, we used the same processes, but that was somehow didn't really work out. It was actually quite very stressful situation. We flew all over the world. We changed directions while traveling because we realized that we have to go back and discuss. So there was a lot of stressful time. And in 2015, we actually decided to remove the CEO of Amazing Labs Austin, and we handed the responsibility of the company, we handed to the team. So instead of removing the team and leaving the CEO there, we decided that we believe the CEO is the problem, that the culture of the CEO does not fit to what we want, and the team does, so we removed the CEO. What is Amazing Labs Austin today? All of that hard time is over. We are now 7 employees in Austin, and we're mostly serving US clients. Now, it's no problem anymore. We have a good track record. It's no problem. We can sell to the US clients, and as Amazing Labs Zurich, we do Drupal 8, we do React, just like your regular Drupal agency in that way. Next one. Again, in 2014, the 2 founders that originally founded Amazing.com decided for personal reasons to move to Cape Town, South Africa. There was no board decision or so that we said, let's move there. They just said, okay, one of them grew up in South Africa, so they said, I would like to move back to South Africa to live there with my family and things like that. And so we did, or they did. And a couple of months later, we already saw how like the network and the community was very interesting. If you know a bit about the history of South Africa, they just come out of a very hard time, and now people are very excited. People see now all the world is now open to them, and so they can do a lot of stuff. And we felt that the people want to do it. So 6 months later, we opened Amazing Labs Cape Town, and we hired 2 local employees and started from there. Again, it's its own legal entity registered in South Africa. And it's again privately financed through the owners that we had at the time. And The CEO at that time, we knew we cannot make the same, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but the same situation we did not want. So we put one of the actual owners as CEO of the company because we knew that person lives the culture. That person can bring the culture to the teams. And so that's what we decided there. What is it today? Today it's 11 employees that are in South Africa, but also a bit remote. And they're not only serving clients in South Africa, but they're also serving clients in Switzerland. Because we are in the same time zone, so that is actually possible to serve clients from South Africa out of Switzerland. And unfortunately also the economy in South Africa is not that good, or not that good yet, that clients really appreciate super beautiful websites that unfortunately are also a bit expensive. So we also decided to serve the Swiss market. And technology-wise, it's the exact same. It's Drupal 8, it's React, nothing special there. Next story is about 2009. So when we started, so going all the way back, that we started Amazing Labs Zurich, clients asked us that they need to host in Switzerland. And at that time, there was no platform, there was no Pantheon, there was no Acquia, especially not in Switzerland. And so we had to build our own system. So over years, starting from 2009 till today, we built a hosting platform for Amazing Labs Zurich, Cape Town, Austin, Amazing Metrics, and we are hosted in Switzerland, the US, and South Africa, because each of the clients, they wanted to host in its own country. So we were just forced to build a hosting platform, and we built it in just always thinking about ourselves. And in 2015, we had more and more clients asking us, or more other agencies, hey, can I host with you? I had multiple Swiss agencies coming to me and say like, I also want to host in Switzerland. I have a client that needs to host in Switzerland. What do you do? And at the beginning, we always said, well, we built our own thing. We cannot allow you to go on it because it's not our business model. But, you know, the more and more clients are asking you, the more and more people are bugging you every day and like, can I please host with you? We said, okay, maybe there is another idea there. So in 2016, we opened Amazing.io. We actually did first a short beta test in 2015. So end of 2015, we said one single agency in Switzerland, we said, okay, you can come on our platform and we want to see how this works. Is the documentation good enough? Does it even make sense? How it is from a security point of view and things like that. And in 2016, we actually decided to start Amazing.io, but we didn't create its own company yet. But what we did, because we already had 4 companies at the time, so we were quite good in bookkeeping. So what we did is we created a shadow bookkeeping within Amazing Labs Zurich. That means it's legally one entity, but you look at the whole thing as like 2 companies, so you know how much money makes each company. You can look at it as like a Git branch of your company. So in 2016, we also hired the CEO again, and we did the same thing again. In May 2016, we officially launched with own branding, with a company, with a website. And in 1st of January 2017, we actually did a spin-off into its own legal entity. So the shadow booking that was for whole 2016 went into its own company in 2017. And that is a much smoother way than actually starting a company from the very first day, because starting companies is a lot of legal, it's a lot of cost, it's just a lot of time that you don't want to spend in actually doing that. So what is Amazing.io today? It's 7 employees. We are completely remote. We have people in the US, in Spain, in Switzerland, but technically we don't care, because at the end we do hosting anyway 24 hours, so you have to check that. And we have clients all over the world because also of that. And we do Docker-based Drupal Plus hosting, so we can also do Node.js, we can do Elasticsearch and things like that. Just what you need, because you saw all the Amazing Labs companies are doing React now, so you also need to host Node.js. Next one. In 2015, Amazing Labs Zurich moved from regular waterfall to Scrum. And some clients really dislike that. And we said to the clients, hey look, we believe that's the future. We believe that waterfall projects, we had our experiences. It doesn't really make sense. So some of the clients left, some of the clients accepted it, but were not really happy. And at the same time, we had the idea for actually creating a Kanban or a maintenance team. So to have a team that doesn't use Scrum, the 2-week sprints, but that uses Kanban for shorter term. Because most of the clients that didn't like it, they told us that it just takes too long. In the past, you were able to call a project manager at Amazy and say, hey, can you please move me the blog from the top to the bottom on my star page? And within the next couple of hours, it was done. Now with Scrum, you need to estimate it, it needs to get into a sprint, and it's going to take at least 2 or maybe 4 weeks. And of course, people didn't like that. So what we started today as an experiment, or we started this year, is called Amazy Labs GMT, or the Global Maintenance Team, which is a team that solely focuses on maintenance, solely focuses on short-term stuff. You can send them an email, or you can open a ticket, and the work is done within a couple of hours. And that gives a nice differentiation between the teams that really build the $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 projects, and then the teams that do small, short increment improvements of your website. Again, we did a shadow, or currently we are doing a shadow bookkeeping within Amazy Labs Zurich, so it's not its own legal entity yet. It's just within that whole thing. And we actually found a freelancer or one of our freelancers, he wanted to lead the team. So we found somebody that wants to lead that idea within the already existing teams. We went to the whole Amazy group and said, hey, we want to create that team. Is anybody interested? Because again, the culture was very important. So what do you think? What are we going next year? Well, we're going to space. No. No, we don't know yet. We don't know yet in 2018. We want to do something, but as of right now, we really don't know. But if you look a bit of how we did it, yeah, it's not something forced, it's just something that happens. So what are we today? Today, we are a holding company on top called Amazy Group. We have an Amazy Labs branch in Zurich, one in Austin, one in Cape Town. We have Amazy Metrics, and we have Amazy.io. And these are all legal entities that all are owned by the Amazy Group. If you ever done international business, it's much easier that way instead of like having different companies. Plus, we have the shadow bookkeeping within Amazy Labs, which is the GMT team. We are 58 employees, I checked this morning, in 13 different countries. And we have 3 so-called hubs. So we don't call them offices, because offices feel like something you should go every day. And we have remote teams, so why should they go to an office? So we call them hubs in Zurich, in Cape Town, in Austin, but they're really all the different people. Like in the Zurich hub, employees from Amazy Labs, Amazy Metrics, and Amazy.io are working every day, so calling them offices wasn't really make sense. And we have teams that are either completely local, they are a mix between local and remote, we have teams that are double local, and we have teams that are completely remote. So at the end, it's really the teams that decide what do they think is the best for them. And as mentioned, all of them are their own legal entities and have their own CEO and also their own management. So each of them is really their own thing and can decide most of the stuff also themselves. So that's us. That's us over what happened over the last couple of years. So what did we learn? First of all, there are 2 types of growth. The first one is you can just get bigger. You can get bigger with the same service in the same location. You can just add more people. That's one way. The other way is you start to just diversify. And now you wonder, why do we diversify? Why do we even do that? It sounds much harder. Well, there's a lot of different reasons for it. First of all, revenue. If you only stay at the same location, there's only so many clients you can do. The risk is reduced because having teams in a lot of different locations or different services, if one of the services breaks away, you maybe have the other one. You can range much further. We learned from before, the US clients only wanted to work with the US teams. So having a team there is much easier. The team itself, growing the team is easier. You can use synergies. We're going to hear about them later, what we're going to use. The sales, of course, is easier. Sometimes a salesperson of Amazy Labs Zurich can sell Amazy Metrics stuff. If you get an offer from us, from Amazy Labs Zurich, it contains the hosting, the metrics, and the building of the site all at once. And it's also much more attractive for employees to work in a company that is all over the world. Our employees, for example, they can work in the other offices or in the other hubs if they like to. And that's, of course, especially these days where we all fight among these like small amount of Drupal employees within Europe or the world. There are not that many. It is much easier. So what type of diversifications are there? First of all, you can just diversify your service. What we did with Amazing Metrics and Amazing AIO. We started new things on the site that are not the same service but are different. Or you can diversify in location. That's what we did with Austin or Cape Town. We took the same service and just do the whole thing in another location again. So again, we have two different ways. And that's really what we are thinking about now. And we don't try to do both at the same time. Doing a service diversification and a location diversification is really, really hard. So either decide on one of them, go to another location and do the same service, or do another service but in an existing location. Because the amount of legal stuff, if you move to another country, that you're going to spend hours, days, and thousands of dollars is very important to know. So how do we do it? What did we learn? First of all, we are not forcing it. Forcing a new company just to create a new company does not really make sense. We listen to the teams, to the clients, we listen to the market. Ask your teams, ask your clients what they need. How could you as a company serve them better? A lot of times they will tell you things that you never believed, that they actually want to work with you. And does it actually fit to our overall strategy? The idea of Amazing Space, we say we are a digital service provider. So we are not a space company. We are not a company that sends cargo into space. So probably creating Amazing Space, even though it would be awesome, probably not going to happen. So we still want to have a main direction that we go to. And at the end, it's a lot about gut feeling and heart. I can tell you all these decisions that we did of creating a new company or things like that. You can look at balance sheet, you can make budgets, but at the end, either you like it or you don't. There is no real spreadsheets that, at least for us, that really told us at the end, should we really do it? It's always like, it's somewhere in between. So listen to your heart, listen to your gut. If it feels good, go. If not, don't do it. Challenges. What type of challenges do we face? Well, first of all, it's a lot of money. Creating new companies usually involves putting money into these companies. So that's quite a thing. And it's also high complexity. We have 6 board meetings every 3 months, which all of them take between 3 to 6 hours. So you can imagine the board members are spending a lot of time in meeting rooms. There is a lot of travel, a lot of billing, legal. We have companies, we have employees in 13 different countries, in 3 different countries. So it's a lot of things you have to figure out. How does the world work? And also the world is changing, so you have to keep up there. And there's also very other interesting things. You realize how culture and communication is different. One of the interesting ones is in South Africa. In South Africa, the thing called now. So in Switzerland, if I call somebody and I ask a painter to please come to my office to paint the wall, and I tell them now, what do you expect? The person comes now, like maybe within the next 5 minutes. Or if I ask an employee, if I ask a project manager, can you please send the client an update about the billing sheet, and you tell them now, I would expect he does it or she does it. Yeah, in South Africa it's a bit different. If you say now, it might not even going to happen. Or it maybe happens in the next 3 days. And what you can do, you can enforce it and you can say now, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen in this day. It maybe happens in the next day. Just the word now, something stopping doing and doing something else, it doesn't exist. It's not in their culture. And that's something you have to understand. Because of course at the beginning you're angry at them, and then you realize maybe you should have learned the culture better. So it's a lot of these things. And that's only one of them, but like, we could tell you, like, we could fill the whole day of like culture difference that we just realized. The other one, we have a lot of multiple companies. That at one point allows to focus. You can do marketing, you only have to talk about one thing. Branding is much easier. Hiring is easier. You only need to hire one person for one job. And also the employee identification. They know I'm like working at Amazing.io and therefore I'm building hosting. Yes, we have other companies that build websites, but that's not what we do. But at the end, at the same time, it's also very confusing for clients. A lot of times clients switch these names. They talk about hosting at Amazing Metrics and Amazing Labs, whatever, and we just tell them, just call it Amazing. So we also have confused employees. We have 7 companies, and sometimes people completely switch up who is working where, so that can also be. What do we do to work on that? First of all, we do a monthly group meeting where once per month everybody meets. And we have a group handbook which explains how we work, which explains the different companies, which explains all the employees. So this is what it looks. That's one of the group monthly meetings. You can see we have whole offices and also all the individual remote people. So that happens once per month. And we really find a way that everybody somehow can join because we have people in all time zones, pretty much in all of them. But there's 1 hour where we meet, where we explain new employees joining, people leaving, new companies, new clients, and stuff like that. And that really helps understand everybody what is going on, where we're going. And the other one, we created a handbook that explains the whole thing, that explains why do we do it, who are the owners, who are the founders, what does everybody get, where are differences between the different companies and stuff like that. Everybody gets that on their first day. We hand that to them and say, read it, because it explains to you all the things. And of course, we're also making updates, so we're also giving it to all the existing employees. So every time we start a new company, it's going to go in there, and they can all read about it. One other thing we learned, that we are still humans, and humans like humans. You can do a lot with remote teams. You can do a lot, but a face-to-face meeting is so much more worth than a flight across. I would even say it's probably 100 times more worth. So this year marks the 10-year anniversary of Amazy, and we said we want to meet everybody. We want to fly everybody together. So we roughly invested $90,000 to bring everybody to Cape Town for 1 week. And that's the office of Cape Town. I said before, there are 11 employees. There are roughly like 15 or 16 people in there, and all crammed together. We worked all 1 week in a tiny office. We rented other spaces in around the office, but we really packed everybody. But there are things, these are the 3 main designers from Amazing Labs Zurich, Cape Town, and Austin. They worked together since 2 years, and they never physically met before. They only meet each other once per week, and the first time they were actually able to sit at a table to discuss about design, about where we want to go, what we want to do as, and that's so valuable. And yes, the flight was crazy expensive. There were hours of loss because traveling, but such a meeting you cannot do via remote. And of course, we had a lot of fun. We were in South Africa, so there was a lot of things to do. We went to a private game. We did safaris. We had fun in the pool. We did some team exercises like kayaking while you're blind. And yes, 2 kayaks actually capsized. We just hanged out. We gave the teams really time to be together, to just spend time. We didn't want to enforce too much because we knew the people they know each other already, so just give them time. We looked at history, we looked at old pictures of Amazy during the beginning, things like that. So culture is extremely important. And one of the key things we learned is that the leadership needs to exercise that culture. If the leadership doesn't get the culture, your employees will never understand it. They will not follow it. So whoever you put in a leadership position, make sure that that person also understands. And for us hiring, the cultural fit is more important than the skill fit. Skills you can teach. You can teach somebody how React works. You can teach somebody programming. You can teach somebody financial stuff. But changing their culture, how they think they should behave in an office, is almost impossible or very, very hard. So our hiring process focuses on culture. Our hiring process involves probably 5 to 6 different interviews with everybody that you will work on later. Because we had it a couple of times where we hired people and we realized 3 months later that the culture is not a fit. And removing that person again is super, super hard, especially after a short amount of time. But when you realize that your culture is not fitting, it's not going good. Next one is allow communication. We use Slack, and Slack is actually 95% of all Slack channels are open. Each teams and each location have their own Slack channels. But people from Austin are in the Cape Town channels. People from Zurich are in the Austin channels. Because at the end, these are people, they want to know what's going on. When somebody has a birthday, there are birthday celebrations at an office, but everybody else joins via Slack. They see the pictures, they are shared on them. And we also do it with clients. We have our clients in our Slack channels that allows much more open communications and things like that. And find a good video call system. We used to use Google Hangouts. It was not really working for us. Now we moved to others. We're still not super happy, but at least it's so important to actually see each other, to look each other into the eyes if you discuss about hard things, if you are remote. Next one, don't plan too much ahead. We never did any 3-year plans. Of course, you can dream what you would like to achieve in 3 years, but there is no such thing that says in 3 years we want to have an office in there and there. What we do is we have a 1-year strategy where we give ourselves goals that we do, and we actually plan 6 months ahead. Everything else, I really believe, is wasted money or wasted time, because you never know what's happening anyway. You never know where Drupal going, where your employees are going, which employee decides to leave, which employee decides to come. It's changing anyway, always. Then, delegate. Probably for me, the most fucking hardest thing ever I had to learn. It's not easy. And one of the things I learned is that actually delegating doesn't start with your employees, it starts with yourself. It starts with give your employees trust. Only if you trust them, you can actually also accept, because they're gonna make mistakes. But if you give them trust, always have an open door, always be around. People all know my phone number, and they know when they can call me. They know if they're gonna call me, I'm gonna pick up the phone, no matter in which time zone I am. Because I tell them, look, there are situations where you just need help, and so you call me. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. Call me, wake me up, and we can try to fix that. Please don't call me if a deployment failed, and you can read in the documentation how it worked. But if you really feel that you need to now, do that, and there's no problem. And the next one is lead by objective. Tell people why you want something. Tell people what is the goal to achieve. Don't tell them how to do it. They can figure that out themselves, and sometimes they have ideas that are much better than your own. Tell them why you want to achieve something, and then they will follow that and make sure that you track that. The last one is find symbiosis. We do billing and invoicing for Amazing Lab Zurich, Metrics, GMT, and Cape Town, and Amazing.io, that actually forget that, is all done by one single team. So there are 2 employees in Cape Town that send out invoices for all the companies at the same time. It's much easier, it's much faster, so it's all going to happen in one single location. We use group-wide licenses. We have one Slack account. We have one Google Drive account. We have one Zoom account. We use the same software and tools. We have one massive Jira with, I don't know how many tickets there, but everybody is the same. If I want to check, we sometimes, Amazing Cape Town helps out Amazing Zurich in building a website. And they use the same Jira. They can look at the Scrum boards, they can see what happens there. And we do sync meetings across the teams. So different developers, they meet, all the marketing people, they meet, all the project managers, they meet on a regular basis and tell each other what's happening, tell each other what's going on. Time zones, of course, is a pro and a con at the same time. Make sure that you set up all your phones, like if you use Slack, there's a do not disturb in there, because we have now people on 24 hours. You can go 24 hours, any time of the day, you can go in the Slack and somebody is working. And sometimes they use at here or at channel, and then you get pushed. So make sure that you're not waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning just because somebody in Slack wanted to tell everybody that they go to Trader Joe's to get food. Happened to me. So we use some tools. This is a tool that tells us when people are on, and we can also see special things. Like John Albin, he works in Taiwan for Zurich. He actually works twice a day. Because he wants to have more overlap. So he works in the afternoon, then stops, gets his daughter, puts her in bed, and then starts working again after lunch, after dinner. It's perfectly fine, works awesome, but you need to know, well, like in which time zone is it? So we use a tool that tells us exactly who is working now, who is where, and can I now bug that person or not? Makes a lot of things much easier. So looking back, I can definitely tell you it's getting easier over time. When we started the second company, that was very hard. Now we are at the 7th, we're thinking about the 8th. Starting a new company, as mentioned, is like a Git branch. It's almost done. And it's the case for anything. But you will fail. We failed, and we actually failed quite hard. But as long as you learn of all these things, as long as you look at the past and try to understand why things happened and how to prevent these things for the future, you're going to get better and it's going to get easier. The quote that I look at always when I am in a hard situation is by Henry Ford, and he said once, when everything seems to be against you, remember that the plane takes off against the wind and not with it. Thank you. I think we have time for like questions. 10 minutes, awesome. Yes.
Yes, I want to hear a little bit, just very briefly, about your maintenance team.
Yes.
You're growing. How are you handling these? Like, how are you bringing the knowledge over of the projects to the teams that are supporting it?
Yes, there are multiple things. First of all, like using the same GitHub account and using the same Jira account and being religious about like Jira tickets with code. So to tag the Git commits with the Jira helps a lot. So that like somebody that needs to look at why was that code written, they can actually go back to Jira and figure out why. That helps. Doing sync meetings again. Like if GMT takes over a project, they actually have a meeting with somebody that worked on that project before. And a lot of times, it's not just like, I'm throwing it at you and I go away. A lot of times if a build team hands it over to the GMT team, they work together for up to 6 months on the same project. So that they really learn how the whole thing works and how it understands. And I think the last one is making sure that they understand that they don't look at each other as two teams that fight against each other, but that they really realize that the person that built the site, that somebody is coming and now helping them maintaining the site. So that it's really like a positive thing, making sure that. It's not always easy, and we had definitely situations where we forgot to tell something, where we forgot to document something. The good thing is we all use Drupal, and we have kind of this, like similar ways how to build Drupal sites. But yeah, that is one of the hardest parts, is like actually to make sure that a person that is maybe in a different time zone understands why that code was written and stuff like that. Yeah.
What's the name of the tool for working together in time zone?
It's called Spacetime. It's connected to Slack. So if you have a Slack account, you're in there, and people can decide their own location.
Is it free?
I think, yes. Yes?
When starting a new entity,
Yeah.
you search a new CEO almost every time.
Yes.
How do you handle equity? Do you give equity to that CEO or something?
Yes. So if we go back, so each of the companies has a CEO, and we say we give out 33% of equity for each of the individual companies. So the holding keeps 66% at all times, and the 33% can be acquired by CEOs, management, and leads. So anybody in a leadership position of a company can buy themselves in up to max 5%. There are some exceptions to rules, whatever, but that's roughly the idea. So yes, we give them individual equity for their individual companies, but always making sure that the group owns more than 50%, because at the end you don't want to like have a revolution within your companies, and but we want to make sure that people identify themselves and work for them. And the CEOs of all the companies also get bonuses based on the profit. So at the end, you look at each of them as like individual companies. Other questions? Yes.
When doing a Scrum, something which is very important is a very close collaboration.
Yes.
I was wondering what kind of issues you face having most of your employees working remotely.
So if we talk about Scrum, what we do is the teams are between 5 to 6 employees. And they meet themselves every day. They meet the client themselves. They have a product owner in this team. So they are completely independent from the other teams. And the teams decide themselves how they want to structure the timing, how they structure remoteness and things like that. And so it's the responsibilities of the team. And like right now, the teams decided, because there's DrupalCon Vienna coming up and some people want to go there, they decided themselves, hey, let's all come to Zurich and we have 2 weeks of working together. But that was something that the teams decided. So a lot of times we as like management or board, we are not involved in these decisions themselves. In terms of remoteness, I think the most important thing is to just define really good rituals, define really good structure so everybody knows on which meeting do I have to be where, and going back to the video conferencing. One of the interesting things we tried, and that works currently quite well, is that some teams, they just work together while being on a hangout, on a Zoom call or on a Hangout call, and they don't have a meeting, but just for half a day, they all are on the call, have all headphones on, and they just all work together and talk, like they would be in a regular, like they would sit in a room and work together. So there's just like half a day of like an open call, and there's some music running in the background and things like that, and that just gives the feeling of we are working together. So the most important thing is that it's really one team that can work themselves. Okay, cool, that's it. If you have more questions, I'm happy, I'm around. Just hit me. Thank you.